I still remember the sound of her laughter the day I introduced them. It was the kind of laugh that filled a room, loud, confident, unapologetic. Back then, I thought it was beautiful. Now, whenever I hear someone laugh like that, something inside me tightens. A reminder of how easily love and trust can be stolen when you aren't looking. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, wearing the face of your best friend. Her name was Chloe. We met in college, two ambitious girls with chipped nail polish and big dreams of starting our own boutique one day. We were inseparable. She was fire, I was calm water. She could sell anything, and I could design it. Together, we were unstoppable. For years, our friendship was like a second heartbeat, steady, familiar. We'd spend nights in our tiny apartment above a noisy pizza shop, sketching clothing designs and arguing about fabric choices while sharing cold slices and warm dreams. When we finally opened our small store, Crescent Threads, it felt like everything we'd ever wanted was finally real. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And then there was Ethan. He walked into my life on a rainy afternoon. Literally. The ceiling had started leaking, and I was trying to move our display rack when a tall man with tired eyes and a crooked smile offered to help. He was a photographer. Said he was looking for pieces to feature in a local magazine spread about young entrepreneurs. That day, he took a photo of me holding one of my own dresses, hair messy, rain dripping from my sleeve, and later told me it was his favorite shot. He started visiting often, first for business, then for coffee, then for no reason at all. I tried not to read too much into it, but Chloe noticed. "Oh, come on, Maya," she teased one night as we packed up late. "He's practically shooting heart eyes through the camera. Don't tell me you're that blind." I blushed. She laughed and bumped her shoulder against mine. "You deserve someone to look at you like that," she said softly. That was Chloe. Bold, but kind. Or at least, that's who I thought she was. When Ethan finally asked me out, I couldn't stop smiling for days. He was gentle, curious, patient, the kind of man who remembered how you took your coffee and actually meant it when he said he cared about your dreams. Chloe was thrilled for me, or so it seemed. She helped me pick out dresses for our dates, gave advice I didn't ask for, and joked about being my maid of honor when he finally puts a ring on it. I didn't see the envy hiding beneath her laughter. Not yet. At that time, Crescent Threads was starting to grow. We just signed a small deal with a boutique in downtown LA, our biggest break yet. Orders were picking up, interviews were happening, and for the first time in years, we felt like real businesswomen, not just two girls chasing a dream. But success has a strange way of revealing people's true nature. And Chloe? Well, Chloe was starting to change. She became more controlling, more secretive. If a client complimented one of my designs, she'd quickly redirect the conversation. She started scheduling private meetings, saying they were networking opportunities, but never inviting me along. I noticed, of course, but I told myself it was fine. After all, she'd been my best friend for years. I trusted her. I owed her the benefit of the doubt. The night Ethan proposed, Chloe was the first person I called. She screamed so loudly I had to pull the phone away. "Oh my God, Maya, I knew it. He's perfect for you." We went out to celebrate, just the three of us. And that was the first night I noticed something different. The way she leaned in when he spoke. The way her hand lingered a little too long when she passed him his drink. The way he laughed, politely but uncomfortably. I brushed it off. Maybe I was just imagining things. After all, Chloe was my best friend. But sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones who learn exactly how to hurt you because they already know where your heart lives. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, hands shaking over the keyboard, feeling my whole world quietly collapse. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked through the empty shop, touched the shelves, the sketches, the coffee mug Emily had gifted me when we opened. It said, Partners in Design. I dropped it. It shattered across the floor. For the first time, I didn't pick up the pieces. The first year of our business felt like a dream. We started small, a cozy home decor boutique tucked between a flower shop and a cafe in downtown Pasadena. We called it Haven Home. I handled design and sourcing. Emily managed clients and marketing. She had that magnetic charm that made people stop mid-walk to talk to her. And I was the quiet one. The one who stayed up late sketching new ideas, matching color palettes, worrying about invoices. We worked side by side, laughing through long nights, sharing takeout, whispering dreams about expanding someday. She'd look at me, eyes gleaming, and say, "We're unstoppable, Mia." At the time, I believed her. My fiancé, Daniel, entered the picture a year later. He was calm where I was anxious, gentle where I was guarded. An architect, practical, patient, always with a quiet smile that felt like safety. We met at a design expo, and from the very first conversation, I knew he saw me, not just what I did. Emily was thrilled for me. At least she seemed to be. "Oh my God, Mia, he's perfect for you," she squealed the night I told her. "Finally, someone who gets your obsession with minimalist lamps and reclaimed wood." We laughed, and she insisted we double date soon. But there was something in her tone, light, teasing, that brushed against me strangely, a little too curious. I ignored it, because that's what you do when your heart is full. You assume the best. Months passed in a blur of work and wedding plans. Daniel became a regular at Haven Home, helping with renovations, fixing lighting, sometimes just dropping by to see me. He and Emily got along easily, both creative, witty, full of ideas. She'd tease him about his serious architect face, and he'd laugh in that unguarded way I loved. I didn't see danger in their comfort. I saw friendship. Because betrayal never enters your mind when you trust someone that deeply. The first crack appeared on a rainy Thursday evening. I'd stayed late finishing a client order, custom wall art that needed to be delivered next morning. Emily was supposed to help, but she hadn't shown up since lunch. Her phone went straight to voicemail. By 10 p.m., I was exhausted and driving home through the drizzle when I saw something that made me blink twice. Emily's car, parked outside Daniel's apartment. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe she dropped something off. Maybe Daniel was helping with one of her client projects. But the lie barely settled in my chest before my stomach began to twist. I waited for her call. It came the next morning. "Sorry, babe, got a migraine, went home early. You finished that piece, right?" Her voice was casual, too casual. I wanted to believe her. I even told myself I did. But her words and what I saw didn't match. That's how betrayal starts. Not with an explosion, but with quiet, mismatched truths. Over the next few weeks, little things began to shift. Emily started dressing differently, more polished, deliberate. She wore a perfume I'd never noticed before. Daniel seemed distant, distracted. His phone often turned face down. At work, Emily's tone toward me sharpened subtly. She'd challenge my ideas in front of clients, laugh a little too loudly when correcting me. Once, during a client meeting, she interrupted and said, "Mia's ideas are great, but I think we need something fresher." The client glanced at me, uncomfortable. I smiled, pretending it didn't sting. That night, I went home and cried quietly on the kitchen floor. It wasn't just the fear of losing Daniel. It was the slow unraveling of two people I'd trusted with my heart and my future. One evening, I walked into the shop early and caught Emily on the phone. She didn't hear me. Her voice was soft, almost nervous. "No, she doesn't suspect anything. I think she still trusts me." Something inside me froze. She turned when she saw me, startled, eyes wide. "Oh, you scared me." "Who were you talking to?" I asked. She hesitated. "A supplier. About the new furniture line." I nodded slowly. But that night, I checked our supplier list. No new furniture orders. A few days later, Daniel told me he needed some space. Those two words, so gentle, so final, echoed in my mind like a breaking glass. I asked if something was wrong, if he wasn't happy. He avoided my eyes. "You're so focused on the business, Mia. Sometimes I feel like you're not here with me." I stood there, numb, because he was right. I had been consumed by the shop, but I was doing it for us, for our future. I didn't argue. I just whispered, "Okay." He kissed my forehead and left. I didn't see him for 2 weeks. And then, on a bright Saturday morning, I found out the truth, not from either of them, but from the universe's cruel sense of timing. Emily forgot to log out of her email on the shop computer. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just checking orders. But the open tab showed something I couldn't unsee. An invoice for a new business registration. Business name, Haven Interiors. Partners, Emily Moore and Daniel Harris. My chest went cold. I scrolled further, saw logo drafts, design plans, lease agreements. They had taken everything. My business model, my fiancé, my future. The next morning, I woke up with that strange, hollow feeling, the kind you get when you've cried too much and still have tears left you can't shed. I didn't go to the shop. I couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the printout of the business registration I'd found. Emily's name, Daniel's name, right there, black ink on white paper, binding them in a partnership that was supposed to be mine. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was calculated. They'd waited until our business account renewal date, until the contracts were up for review, until I was too busy with supplier negotiations to notice what papers I was signing. Emily had slowly taken control of everything, and I trusted her enough to let her. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Emily. "Hey, you okay? Haven't seen you at the shop today." I stared at the message, my hands trembling. For the first time in our friendship, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to scream, another part wanted to hear her explain. Instead, I typed back, "Yeah, just not feeling great. Need a day." She replied with the heart emoji. It felt like a slap. By the next week, Daniel still hadn't reached out, but Emily did, over and over, acting like nothing was wrong. She sent photos of new decor arrangements, captions full of forced cheer. "Look what I did to the front display. Clients are loving it." I didn't respond. Instead, I started quietly collecting everything I had: contracts, invoices, emails. I didn't even know what I'd do with them. I just needed proof that this wasn't some nightmare I'd imagined. A few days later, I went to Haven Home one last time. The doorbell chimed, that familiar soft tone I'd chosen myself. Emily looked up from the counter, smiling. "Mia, you're back!" Her smile faltered when she saw my face. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Of course," she said, glancing nervously at the employee in the corner. "Let's go to the back." The storage room smelled of cedar and lemon oil, familiar, comforting scents that suddenly felt wrong. I placed the printout on the table between us. She stared at it, her expression unreadable for a moment, then sighed. "So, you found out." That was it. No denial, no apology, just acceptance. "Why, Emily?" My voice came out quieter than I expected. "You had everything with me. We built this together." She looked away. "You built it, Mia. I just helped. But it was always about you, your designs, your name, your vision. I was just the face people forgot when you weren't around." "That's not true," I said, shaking my head. She laughed bitterly. "You didn't even notice when Daniel started coming to me for advice, when he told me he didn't feel seen by you." Her words hit like stones. "Daniel and I were struggling, yes," I said softly. "But you knew that. You were supposed to be my friend." She crossed her arms. "He came to me, Mia. I didn't plan this. We just connected. And then things happened. You can't blame love." I stared at her. The woman I used to share midnight snacks with, who knew every secret about my family, my fears, my dreams. "You didn't just take him. You took everything." Her eyes flickered. Guilt, maybe? Or victory? I couldn't tell. "You'll be fine," she said quietly. And just like that, she walked out. That night, I drove to Daniel's apartment. He opened the door, surprised. "Mia?" I pushed past him, shaking. "You and Emily. How long?" He ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "How should I have found out, Daniel? Through your business launch announcement or maybe a wedding invite?" He flinched. "It's not like that. We're just trying something new. She believes in what I want to do." "And I didn't?" He sighed. "You were always busy. With your store, your ideas. I felt like a project, not a person." The irony nearly choked me. I had built everything around making our life better. The late nights, the sacrifices, the endless work. And now that same dedication was being used against me. "Do you love her?" I asked finally. He looked away. That silence told me everything. I nodded, my chest hollow. "Then you deserve each other." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not then. I walked out quietly, letting the door close behind me. Outside, the air was cool and heavy with jasmine. The world kept moving, cars passing, people laughing, life continuing while mine had come undone. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, hands gripping the wheel, replaying every memory. Their laughter together, their small glances, her sudden absences, all the clues I ignored because I believed loyalty meant love. 2 months later, Haven Interiors launched. Bright, bold, and painfully familiar. Their store was only a few blocks away from mine. The first time I saw their sign, I stopped across the street. The same wood finish, the same logo concept I'd sketched months before. They hadn't even bothered to hide it. And people loved it. They got glowing reviews, magazine features, brand collaborations, everything Emily and I once dreamed about. Meanwhile, my own shop's sales began to dip. Clients slowly drifted towards their fresh, modern version. It felt like watching my reflection live a better life, one I'd worked for but didn't get to keep. One evening, I sat alone in the empty shop. The last light of sunset filtered through the blinds, streaking across the walls. That's when I realized I couldn't fight for something that had already left me. I had to start over. Not for revenge, not to compete, but to reclaim the parts of myself I gave away too easily. My trust, my peace, my purpose.
I started small. A new notebook, a blank page. The first thing I wrote was, what do I want to build? Not for them, not for us, but for me. For weeks, I sat in my shop after closing hours, redesigning everything. The logo, the layout, the purpose. I realized I didn't want to sell beautiful things anymore. I wanted to teach people how to create beauty for themselves. So I turned my boutique into a workshop space. Small design classes, interior makeovers for single mothers, low-budget home styling sessions. It was humble at first. 5 students in a class, a few curious walk-ins, but it was mine. I called it Root and Rise because that's what I had to do, root myself again and rise. At first, I avoided anything that reminded me of Emily or Daniel. I muted their posts, ignored mutual friends, and stopped reading online articles that featured their store. But one afternoon, while scrolling through an interior design forum, I saw a post titled, "When your ex-partner steals your brand, what would you do?" It wasn't mine, but the situation sounded eerily familiar. Dozens of comments poured in, some bitter, some wise. One line stood out to me. Success built on betrayal always collapses under the weight of truth. Something inside me shifted. I didn't want to destroy them, but I wanted the truth known. So, I started documenting everything. Old emails where I'd sent Emily the original business concept, sketches dated months before Haven Interiors existed, trademark applications that had my name as the creative author. Piece by piece, I rebuilt the timeline of what had really happened. Then I reached out to a small business lawyer. Her name was Sandra. She was calm, sharp, and brutally honest. After I told her everything, she leaned back and said, "You have a strong case. You might not get your relationship back, but your work, you can protect that." Those words lit something in me. The legal process took time, months of back and forth, evidence gathering, statements. Emily tried to downplay it, acting like I was overreacting. Daniel stayed silent. But when the documents reached their investors, the same ones who'd funded their expansion, things changed. Turns out, using copyrighted material and stolen brand concepts isn't a great business move. Within weeks, several investors pulled out. Their sponsorships vanished. The same local magazine that once praised them now ran a headline: "Creative Dispute Shakes Haven Interiors." It wasn't revenge. It was justice. Quiet, factual, undeniable. Emily called me one evening. I almost didn't answer. "Mia," she said, her voice trembling, "why are you doing this? You're ruining everything." I took a slow breath. No, Emily, I said softly. I'm just telling the truth. There was silence on the line, the kind that feels like years passing between two people. Then she said something I'll never forget. I didn't think you'd actually fight back. That sentence hit me harder than all the others, because it meant that even after everything, she still saw me as the woman who wouldn't stand up for herself. That night, I walked into Root and Rise and turned on the fairy lights along the wall. The warm glow filled the room, and for the first time in months, I smiled. My next class was full, 10 students, every seat taken. One of them, a middle-aged woman named Clara, stayed after everyone left. She told me she'd been following my story quietly. She knew what had happened through mutual friends. She said, "You know, Mia, people talk, but what they remember most isn't what you lost. It's how you handled it." That moment, I almost cried, because I realized that's what healing looked like. Not forgetting, not pretending, but being seen for who you became after. A few months later, I got an invitation, a design expo downtown. They wanted Root and Rise to showcase community-based interior design. It was small compared to the big industry names, but it mattered. On the day of the event, as I was setting up my booth, I saw a familiar figure across the hall. Emily. She looked tired, thinner, still beautiful, but worn. We made brief eye contact, a flicker of old friendship followed by the memory of everything between us. She hesitated, then walked over. "I heard you're doing workshops now," she said, glancing at my banner. "I am," I said simply. She nodded. "Looks nice." There was so much unsaid between us. Finally, she said, "You were right about everything." And for the first time, I saw tears in her eyes. I didn't gloat. I didn't pity her. I just said, "We both made choices. I learned from mine." She nodded, looked down, and quietly walked away. After the expo, a local journalist approached me for an interview. She asked, "If you could tell your audience one thing about betrayal, what would it be?" I smiled faintly. That it doesn't define you. Betrayal might change your story, but it doesn't end it. Sometimes it just gives you a new beginning. From then on, I poured my soul into my new life. My classes grew, my clients came back, and my heart slowly, quietly healed. I still thought about Daniel sometimes, wondering if he ever regretted it. But the thought no longer burned. It just passed through me, like a soft echo of an old song. By spring, Root and Rise was thriving. And one morning, as I watched the sunlight pour through the window onto the wooden floor, I realized something beautiful. I didn't need revenge. I had already won, not by taking anyone down, but by rising again. A few months passed. Spring turned to summer, and my shop became a small but steady sanctuary. I spent my mornings teaching and my evenings journaling, often writing letters I never sent, to Emily, to Daniel, even to the younger version of me who once believed loyalty was unshakable. Life had softened around the edges, but fate, it seemed, wasn't done showing me how much things had changed. It was a Thursday afternoon when a woman walked in to Root and Rise, elegant in her late 50s, holding a folder. "Are you Mia Alvarez?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "How can I help you?" She introduced herself as Marilyn Carter, a real estate developer. Her company had been one of Haven Interior's biggest clients. I came because I wanted to meet the woman who actually designed my show home, she said with a faint smile. I blinked, confused. Excuse me? She chuckled softly. Emily and Daniel presented your designs as theirs, but when their company collapsed, your name kept coming up, so I did my research. She opened the folder and slid a printed article across the counter. A small design blog had written a piece titled, "The Real Creator Behind Haven's Rise." It was me. I hadn't even known. Marilyn smiled warmly. You're talented, Mia, authentic, and the world's starting to see it. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. After she left, I sat in silence, tears streaming down my face. Not because I wanted credit, but because the truth, quietly, had found its way out. No shouting, no scandal, just light. That night, I walked through my workshop, touching the tables, the paints, the small pieces of decor my students had made. This was my redemption. Not in proving them wrong, but in creating something right. A few weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Haven Interiors had officially shut down. The investors had pulled their funding completely. The brand's reputation never recovered from the plagiarism scandal. Emily had moved out of the city. Daniel, too. Someone said they'd split up. Apparently, once the spotlight faded, so did their illusion of love. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vengeance. Just closure. That weekend, my mother came by the shop with a basket of homemade pastries. She looked around the bustling studio, laughter, chatter, life, and said softly, "You've built something beautiful again, sweetheart." I smiled. This time, it's built on truth. She nodded approvingly. And on peace. By the end of that year, Root and Rise was featured in a lifestyle magazine as one of the most inspiring women-owned design spaces. I remember sitting in front of my shop with a cup of coffee, watching the evening sky turn gold, feeling gratitude so deep it silenced every hurt that had come before. I realized then, forgiveness isn't about saying, it's okay. It's about saying, I'm okay now. A few months later, I received a letter. No return address, just my name written in familiar handwriting. Emily. Inside, a single page. Mia, I saw your article. You deserve everything good that's happening for you. I won't ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. But I hope someday you'll think of me without hate. I think of you often, and I wish I'd been more like you. Emily. I sat there for a long time staring at the letter. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just whispered, "You're forgiven." Not for her, but for me. Months later, I was teaching my last class of the season, a session on design through healing. I told my students, every space tells a story, but the most beautiful ones are born from brokenness. Cracks let the light in, and that's where we find meaning. They listened quietly, and one young woman asked, "Is that how you started Root and Rise?" I nodded. Yes, I built it from my own cracks. She smiled softly. Then it's perfect. As I closed the studio that night, I turned off the lights and stood in the doorway, watching the glow fade across the room. My life wasn't what I'd planned, but it was finally mine, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. There's a saying I tell myself often. Betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals who you are beneath the trust. For me, it revealed strength, quiet, patient, and honest. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, a friend, a partner, a person you built dreams with, I want you to know this. You will rise again, not as who you were, but as someone stronger. Because sometimes the loss you feared the most is the one that finally sets you free. Would you have forgiven her, or would you have fought back harder? Tell me in the comments below. And if you want to hear more real-life stories like mine, subscribe and stay with me. Because sometimes our stories of heartbreak become the stories of our healing.